How's it going, guys? Jake here. Welcome back to Dude Ranch DIY. I just got home from work about 5 minutes ago, and I got two big packages sitting outside my garage. Let me show you what I got. So here they are. Two packages with RuggedMade tape on them. I'd say the top little one is my new push plate, and the bottom one is my big, beefy cylinder. It says, caution, heavy package. So I am super excited to have gotten these. I just pulled the ATV out of the garage here, and we are going to grab the tractor, and while using the new hitch, slide-on hitch that I made for the pallet forks, we're gonna bring the splitter right in here, and this is where all the action is gonna happen, swapping out the cylinder. All right, guys, so I just picked up this fresh IBC tote from my little stash over on the other side of the wood yard, and I think that we're going to be using this, or recycling, I should say, repurposing the bladder in a way that's going to drastically help with doing this whole splitter thing. So I'm gonna bring this up to the garage, then we're gonna throw on the slip-on pallet fork hitch and yank this old RuggedMade splitter out of the wood yard and into the warm garage. Okay, guys, we just brought that IBC tote up to the house, which I will show you what we are going to be using it for. But I'm gonna get the splitter uncovered here and ready for transport up to the garage. A couple people have asked me about this cover that I have for the splitter here. It's actually just a motorcycle cover that I picked up, I think, at Walmart somewhere. It does the trick. It has these two little like bungee cords with hooks that I just snap to each other underneath the belly of the splitter, and it keeps it out of the elements. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you was this slip-on hitch that I made for the pallet forks. As you can see, I drilled a hole through my pallet fork, and what I did here was I got a piece of 2-inch hitch receiver weld on off of Amazon, and I welded that to a modified 2x4 by 1/4 inch thick piece of tubing here. Now, the issue I ran into was that my forks are 4 inches wide, and 2x4 by 1/4 is 3.5 inside diameter. So the initial tube wasn't gonna fit. So what I did was that I had these two pieces laying around. I cut the edge off one and basically joined two together to make it a little bit wider. So now it fits right over the pallet forks, no problem. And I pull my pin, take that out, slide this on here, and the pin goes in, no problem. So now I'm ready to move the splitter, and it's way easier than having to hook it up to the ATV. One last thing, fold up a log lift here, and I have this piece of rope with a carabiner on it, and I just attach it to itself, that way it doesn't fall down. We're ready to go. Well, we got her in here. It's a little snug, but we should have enough room to work and get this old cylinder out and the new one in. So the hitch for the pallet forks worked great. Pop that off. We'll be good to go. Well, I cut it a little cockeye, as you can see. But basically, guys, what I was thinking is, since I'm going to be taking off the whole cylinder on the splitter and putting on this new one, I figured I'd probably be losing a good bit of hydraulic fluid. And I've never changed out the hydraulic fluid on these things. Now, Jared, the owner of RuggedMade, said that, you know, it's a pretty widely varied topic as far as how often you change, you know, a full fluid change in a machine. He said they recommend usually about every 2,000 hours, which is quite a bit. I've also heard as little as every 200 hours, which I think is a bit excessive. Considering I have no idea how many hours are on my machine, I figured this would be a good opportunity to do a hydraulic flush and just swap out all the old fluid for some new stuff, as well as put on an hour meter. So this morning I came to this realization and I ordered a tachometer and hour meter. It should be here tomorrow, and we're going to throw that on during this whole splitter, you know, revamp. But because I'm going to be losing a lot of fluid and I'm trying to do it in the garage here where it's nice and warm, I figured I could use an IBC tote to kind of put under as a catch basin for all the hydraulic fluid, and it can just drip in there and not get my floor all covered in fluid. Now you'll notice that I also thought ahead and I cut out the side with the valve on it. So that way when it comes time to get rid of all the fluid, I can easily open up the valve and drain it into buckets, which I can then dispose of at the local recycling center. So that's what I'm doing with the IBC tote. It's one bladder sacrificed, although I think it will come in handy both for this project and any other project that I'm doing where it could get a little messy. And of course, we are going to reuse the cage for firewood. Okay guys, so we're here at the workbench, going to open up this stuff from RuggedMade. Okay. Well, it looks like the cylinder is still in pretty good shape despite the condition of the crate. Oh, looks like it's packaged even again underneath the styrofoam. All right, well, there she is. The new cylinder, 3.5 by 5. Look at that nice big 1-inch pinhole. I can stick my whole thumb in that hole. That sounded dirty. This is pretty sweet. Thank you, Jared, and everybody at RuggedMade. This is, I think this is definitely going to make quite a difference. Now, let's open up this other package here, which should have the new push plate. I think this one should be a little bit easier to open. Again, packaged pretty well. We got our pin. We have our greasable like wear plates that go on the bottom. Oh, the bag, the hardware. opened up, but that's okay. Looks like we got all of our hardware. And finally, the push plate with our nice big hole and 1-inch opening. So when I spoke on the phone to Jared, I totally forgot to mention, but I kind of overlooked it. I didn't know if it would be shipped with a pin, the push block that is. I'm glad to see that it was. So this is, let's get this unwrapped here. Everything was shipped and packaged very well. You know, all things considered, yeah, the crate had some damage to it, but all that matters is that the cylinder appears to be intact. Has caps on both fittings there. Yeah. So here's our nice big pin. There we go. Let's see if the pin fits. Oh yeah. No problem there. No problem going into the push block. This is great. Okay guys, so we are back the next day, and I am going to start a little disassembly here on the splitter. Sarah and I are going away for a wedding, actually down in Savannah, Georgia. So I thought if I could get everything disconnected and get this hydraulic tank opened up, it would have plenty of time to drain out while we are gone. First thing I'm gonna do is take off this restrictor plate here. As you can see, it is pretty bent. Hopefully it comes off all right. And then I'm gonna take off the actual push block itself, which is 10 bolts. So here we go. Okay guys, so it took a little coercing, but I got the 2 wing nuts off. Had to use the big wrench here. Now I think, yep, here we go. Came right off. All right, so my next step here is to take off these 10 bolts that hold on the push plate. Got my Milwaukee Impact 5/8 impact bit and an 11/16 wrench for the nuts. This should go pretty smoothly, I'm hoping. I am going to grab my handy dandy little silicone tray here to put everything in. I have a small one and a big one. If I remember, I'll try and put a link to these in the description. These things are great, especially for stuff like this when you have like just little loose hardware to keep all your tools in. Makes the project go a lot easier. So here we go. Push plate removed. Okay, so I think I'm at a fork in the road kind of with what I could choose to do next. And I think I've got it figured out in my head here. I could either start pulling the drain plug, which is down there on the bottom of the hydraulic tank, and drain all the fluid, you know, or the majority of the fluid from the system that way into my IBC bladder here. Or I could start connecting the fittings and kind of work my way from the top, back, and down. And I think I'm gonna do it that way because the bladder, unfortunately, does not fit in between the wheels of the splitter. It's like very close, but it does not fit. So I'm thinking if I first move the bladder here and disconnect this fitting, all the fluid and stuff can drain down into the tote while it's here. And then since there won't be that much, I can slide it on over to the back and get it centered underneath this fitting, or these fittings, do those, and then finally, last but not least, you know, I can disconnect it from the bottom down there. So I think that's how I'm gonna do it. We'll see if it works out. Okay, so I just reevaluated things. I figured since the fluid is dripping out from a higher point that I can fit a bucket under, might as well drip as much of it as I can into these Home Depot buckets, because eventually I will probably have to put all of this fluid into these buckets to get it disposed of. Probably should have thought of that in the beginning, but such is life. This tote thing was mostly to be able to fit underneath the, the main hydraulic tank, to be able to get the majority of that fluid, but no big deal. Okay, guys, so now that we've slowed down to a slow drip, and before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm going to wipe off this fitting here, and I'm going to label everything, because by the end of this, when I get everything disconnected, there's going to be probably like 6 or 7 hoses that all look the same, that need to go back to the precise place that I took them off from. And there's no way I'm going to remember it, and I don't think pictures would really do it justice. So I'm just going to label everything. So this one I took off first, so I'm going to put a 1 on here. Let's see. Okay, 1. And then put a little 1 right here. Okay, so since this cylinder isn't filled with anything and the other one still had fluid in it, I'm just going to be taking out these little caps. I'm going to reinstall them into the cylinder. That way it doesn't leak stuff all over the place. At least I don't think there's anything in this cylinder. Nope. Nothing in there. So yeah, I'm going to put these caps back on the old one. That way it doesn't keep dripping all over the place. Okay, so basically I'm just going to be doing the same thing, labeling each piece and unscrewing them. So here we go. We left off with 3, so we'll start with 4. Back. Okay guys, so both sides of the cylinder is now fully disconnected from the hydraulic system. The only thing holding the cylinder in place is this large pin right here, and we're gonna pop that out right now. All right, now I was trying to think what the best way to get the cylinder out would be, but I think it's just to slide it down the I-beam itself. So we're gonna give that a shot. Yep. There we go. This thing is heavy. So there we have it. I-beam is clear of the cylinder here. Got our old cylinder with the big reduction there. You can see that hole is all beat up from me constantly trying to bang in new bolts. And we got our big one right here. So we're gonna slide this puppy in and take it for a spin. All right, guys, here we go. I'm gonna try and pop this plug and drain out all the fluid. And there she goes. All right, guys, so that is pretty much the end of the fluid here. I personally thought that a lot more was gonna come out. Curious to see, once I get it in buckets, how much is actually was in there. Jared said that the machine, the tank, the whole machine system has a capacity of 12 gallons, but basically 2 gallons you could usually figure being in the pumps and the lines and stuff like that, and the cylinder. But considering that we, retracted the cylinder all the way back and drained most of the lines here, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like 12 gallons, but I guess we'll see once we get into buckets. So for now, I can start putting the new cylinder back in. Okay guys, well this is where we're gonna stop for now. The new cylinder is all hooked up. I actually rerouted this one line. It was routed inside of here, but I didn't really like that, so I rerouted it on the outside. That way there's nothing it can really potentially rub up against. And we got everything hooked back up the way it should be. So the tank is drained. I'm gonna throw back in the drain plug, and then next time we do this, which is probably actually gonna be in a couple days, because Sarah and I are heading to Savannah, Georgia for a wedding, then I will be able to get back to it when we get back. And I actually need to pick up hydraulic fluid too. So great success. Thanks again to the guys at RuggedMade, and especially Jared for sending me out this cylinder and the push plate that matches it up. And we'll check back in a few days.